Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from Skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
Welcome to another 2022 ski comparison video. Feels like we've been doing these for months.
We'll have done like almost 200 skis in total or something like that with these walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the end of the men's comparisons at this point. We've gone as wide as we're going to go. If after this, the only thing left is kind of narrower front side skis, and then we're going to work some women's comparisons in there as well. This one's kind of fun. You know, we almost started with this group. Feels like one of the most important categories in skiing, period.
Sure.
There's like arguably more versatility up here than anything we've done so far, with the 90 and the 100 maybe being the, you know, if you were going to make an argument against that, those would be the categories that might be as versatile. But I like this group a lot. I think there's a nice wide range of skis up here. And kind of to highlight that, we went in one of our traditional ways of organizing these skis, and that being least expensive to most expensive. I think in this category, it's a really good way to do it. Kind of highlights, you know, some of the benefits that you can get if you spend a little bit more money, but then some of the skis down here pack really impressive value. So allows you as the consumer to, you know, maybe you've got an extra $150 of disposable income. That's no big deal. Then you can start thinking about, you know, in your unique situation where you want to kind of put your money. So to start things off, obviously we have the least expensive ski of the group, that being this Volkl Revolt 95. I have some history with this ski.
Do I?
Did you own a pair?
My wife does. She loves it.
Perfect. So I skied this ski for 2 years in a row. It's been a few seasons since that happened, but this was kind of my daily driver for a couple years, and it worked really, really well for me. What's most impressive about this ski is the price. It's $399.99. No other ski up here is that cheap. In fact, after this, we're going to be jumping up $100. So incredible value in this Revolt 95. We've had the conversation with Volkl plenty of times before where we're like, you guys realize you could charge more money for that ski, right? And they're like, yeah, we know, but it's nice to have it be an affordable option. So 9,500 foot, pretty simple, straightforward construction in this ski. It's Volkl's multi-layer wood core. They use that style of construction in a ton of their skis, using different woods kind of laminated together on a longitudinal axis. Puts it right around 2,000 grams in this 181. And this is one of the most kind of park-focused shapes up here. So we don't really get any taper in its construction whatsoever. We'll talk about what that does to performance in just a second. And then we get relatively symmetrical profile in terms of the rocker camber. So there is camber underfoot, and you can kind of see how much the thickness of the core mills into the tips and tails. The tips and tails are really thin. Kind of combined or going along with that thinner profile is where the rocker starts. So tip rocker is about where my right hand is. Tail rocker is very similar. You know, pretty much identical length in rocker, so almost a symmetrical profile, although it's not symmetrical side cut. In the last comparison, in the powder comparison, we talked about Ahmet Dadali in regards to the Revolt 121. This is actually his ski. This was developed for him with his input, etc., etc. So really designed to cross over between the park and the rest of the mountain. Whether you're going to be strictly skiing it as a park ski, or whether you're more of an all-mountain skier that's going to take it into trees, take it into bowls, groomers,
wherever you want,
all that kind of stuff. Although it's the cheapest ski up here, there's some performance to it as well. Certainly not like a noodle in its flex pattern, so you do get some ski to push against. I was always pretty impressed by the carving performance of this ski. You know, I think where it might lack in some torsional stiffness, it sort of makes up for that in the fact that it doesn't have any taper.
Right.
So you get a nice, long, effective edge, and that really allows pretty good edge grip when you're carving turns. I don't think it's the best in trees. There are some other skis up here that I think perform better in trees because of the increased taper in the tips and tails, but perfectly capable. I had mine center mounted, which is actually the only recommended mount point, and even center mounted, they're fine in the trees if you're used to a ski like that, that is. But yeah, just extremely good value and a very good choice for a playful skier, but probably somebody who at least is going into the park a little bit.
Yeah, and my wife does not. You know, this is her utility ski with the kids and in the woods, and just something light and easy and fun to kick around on. But like you said, you know, for under $400, you're getting a full sidewall, full wood core ski that has limitless possibilities. So there's just a ton of upside to something like this.
Yeah, tremendous value.
But yeah, we jump up a little bit, $499 for this all-new Head Oblivion 94. So we get an 84 and a 94 in this Oblivion series. The 84 is definitely more of like the park-oriented shape and style, whereas this 94 kind of follows this trend in this twin-tip range of being more all-mountain and all-mountain versatility oriented. Quite a bit lighter too. We're dropping weight about 250 grams from the Revolt, so 1765 on the scale right now. So pretty light, you know, light and it's going to be more agile as a result. I would put this in the softer flexing category here. Pretty consistent though, tip to tail. One of the big stories here that we've seen on this ski is this big amount of positive camber underfoot. So that's going to give it its energy. You drop a little bit in weight, you got to make up for it somehow in performance, and they do that with this positive camber underfoot. Pretty good tip rocker for that ski as well, you know, appropriate for the width. And then a little bit less symmetry in the back, so that tip splay is more so than in the tail here. We still do get that tail rocker starting down here, but also, you know, similar to that Revolt, not a whole lot going on in terms of taper. So you are getting long effective edge with this and pretty smooth turns. So for a wood core ski with a full vertical sidewall, twin tip shape, and good positive camber underfoot, you're getting a lot of performance whether you use this in the park exclusively or not at all. And that's what's really nice about these, and I would put a vote for that next ski coming up too, as just, you know, don't discount these mid-90s twin tips for all mountain exclusive purposes. You can really just get a lot of performance out of these, and I've skied on twin tips as all mountain skis here at Stowe for pretty much my whole career. So there's a lot to be said for, you know, whether you're spending a lot of time in the trees and the bumps, but also ripping some groomers. I mean, this camber really makes this ski light up. So just a great option for someone who's doing it all, or a little bit of everything. You know, it's just a good, well-rounded ski, and nice to see Head kind of get into this, you know, get back into the twin tip. I mean,
they had some for a while, but yeah, this feels like an exciting new thing for them. Right. At our media day, we do individual media days with all these brands. Then we have our test as well with all of them together. But I remember the media day when our rep showed up and he was like, "Jeff, I've got twin tips that are new," and I was like, "Hooray!" And I had a lot of fun testing these. I definitely have fond memories of skiing these skis, and they're very, very easy to ski. And they have that just kind of refreshing, easy-going, but energetic and fun feel. So, yeah, great choice. I know Matt McGinnis, who does a lot of our graphic design work, you see his work a lot. He's kind of more behind the scenes, but he has a freestyle park background, and he loved those things as just an all-mountain ski. Next ski that you referred to is the K2 Poacher. This is an important one in this category, and when I say this category, I kind of mean the mid-fat twin tip category. I feel like the Poacher's been around for a long time, and it's got really good performance. Fir and aspen wood core in this ski. I'm actually reading off the back of it because I wanted to tell you exactly what was in it. And then this ski gets some carbon too. They call it carbon boost braid. So basically, you know, carbon strips like we see in a lot of skis. All these companies have different names for them. This ski going a little heavier than the Oblivion, even a little heavier than the Revolt, at 2,000 and about 55 grams. This is the 177 centimeter length, and there is one up from that.
Yeah,
there's a
184.
184 too.
Mm-hmm.
So 184, compared to that 181 Revolt, would be even heavier.
Yep.
The same is true with the flex pattern. So the Poacher is actually a pretty strong ski, and that comes up in questions a lot. When people are choosing among this twin tip category, if you want something that's pretty strong and pretty stable, this is a really good choice. To kind of counteract that, K2's built a little bit more rocker and a little bit more taper into this ski than we've seen in the previous two models. So tip rocker is pretty long, and that kind of corresponds to this. I've always referred to this tip shape as like a javelin tip shape. It's not abrupt early taper, it's more just straightening out into this pointed shape. And that is true in the tail as well. Again, very similar to the Revolt, we get pretty symmetrical rocker profile, not symmetrical side cut, but more of a centered ski. And then you see that same taper in the tail shape as well. So what that means is, although it's heavier, although it's a little stiffer than the two skis we looked at so far, I'd say it's just as maneuverable. Feels a little different on your feet when doing so, but because of that rocker and taper, it'll allow you to release the tail edge pretty easily. So perfectly good in the trees. And then a little bit stronger on a groomer, if you're really skiing fast and aggressively, or fast and aggressively over choppy snow too. I think that's where this ski really shines. I think for some people, it's on the heavier side as a park ski. Certainly not too heavy. We just saw the Revolt that's in a similar weight, and I never found that to be tremendously heavy. I think it's something to consider if you're like a beginner or intermediate park skier. There may be better choices, but still perfectly reasonable. And then on the other end of the spectrum, for like the top tier of park skiers in the world, this is like their favorite ski.
Right, it's X Games gold.
X Games gold medal. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Olympic gold medal this winter. That's my expectation. Colby Stevenson, he's going to take the win. So the Poacher can do a lot. It can be a really fun all mountain ski, but then it can go win X Games.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's about as rare a combination as you can get.
Yep.
And for under $500 by a nickel, like, what more do you really want or need? I think that's just a really nice kind of way to wrap up that ski.
Yep, a lot to like in that ski for sure.
This is one of our more directional skis. To start here, this is the Line Sick Day 94. I
didn't realize this was as affordable. I was going to say cheap, but I don't like to say cheap.
No.
I didn't realize this was as affordable as it is. It's the least expensive directional ski, which I think is worth pointing out.
Yeah. So still at that $499.95 price point here. Again, fantastic value. We're under $500 for a top end ski. We got on these last spring. We just got our line stuff in, so this is our first. Is this our first line ski on comparisons?
No, I think we've worked some others in. I can't recall where.
Okay.
Blend. We had the blend.
We had the blend in,
and I think a couple others.
We get a lot of inquiries about the Sick Day line, so 88, 94, and 104.
Yeah.
This one's the middle one, and obviously the most well-rounded. So we see this kind of within a series. Enforcer 88, 94, 100, 104. So we see this in the cores as well. There are multiple widths of skis in a series. If you're going to have one, I would argue that the one on this wall is the one.
Yep.
You can have an 88 and a 104, or you could have the 94, and it would be just fine. Wood core with carbon in here, and just a lot of snap and energy. One of the ways they do it, not only by the lightweight, but this half cap design here. So we're full sidewall, with that half cap, and kind of tapers to more full sidewall as it gets closer to the tips and tails. So it's a little bit different of a construction than we see in something like a Maverick here, where that sidewall tapers into the cap. And then we get that nice positive camber underfoot, pretty flat in the tail there, you know, very minimal splay, nice round taper shape to it, nothing crazy. And then we do get that width appropriate rocker as well. So starting down here, pretty low splay there as well, but nice gradual shape to it and pretty round in the front. Kind of similar to that Poacher.
Yeah.
You know, the rounder the shape, the more kind of smeary and drifty it's going to be. So that's a nice balance with the more business-like tail. But really had a good time on these, you know, not expecting a whole lot. You know, and I think I was more overwhelmed than underwhelmed for sure on this ski.
It's nice for something to surpass your expectations.
I know, you get on something and you're not really sure what it's going to be, and all of a sudden, you know, you feel that nice kick out of the turn.
Yep.
And, you know, even for me as a bigger skier to be able to feel like this was holding me up appropriately was really comforting.
Yeah,
So that
it's
was nice.
1,600 grams. You know,
Right.
it's
So,
pretty
yeah, light
impressive.
and agile. Got a nice consistent flex, but really nice snap out of it. So,
Yep.
you know, just great directional all mountain ski, affordable. You know, has a nice top end, that nice medium and low end as well. So a nice range in
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, we had like a fun sick day test day.
Yeah.
It was like a mini test day where Bob and I took like all 3 widths of the sick days up to the mountain and skied them all kind of back to back to back, and it was a very rewarding day.
Yep.
And I think they're very well-rounded skis. I could see it being just a go-to ski for a stow skier.
Yeah.
Just super agile in the trees, and then it can carve too. And I think it would be, you know, it wouldn't be fair for us to talk about this ski without mentioning that it has perfectly reasonable touring application. Certainly no reason why you couldn't slap a Alpine touring binding on this and have it be your kind of in and out of bounds ski.
Right.
So.
And nice comparisons coming up with that, with the Blaze and the Escaper as
Yep,
well.
absolutely. We're going to see a couple other skis that fit that exact same
Yep.
description. Perfectly capable in the resort as well as
Right.
as deep into the backcountry as you want to go. Next ski is the line Chronic. So going back to twin tips here, and then these next 2 skis, the Chronic and the ARV, to me they're pretty similar skis. Both just very well-rounded skis for the park as well as the whole mountain. Similar in how we just talked about the Poacher as well. This uses Line's maple macro block construction, pretty much the same construction we get in the Blend and some other skis too. They control the stiffness by the thickness of the core. So the Chronic, if you watch the 100mm comparison video when we flex the Blend, that thing is just like the softest flexing ski I've ever seen in my life. The Chronic is still relatively soft, but a little bit more kind of snap to it, a little bit more pushback from the ski than the Blend. The Blend just feels like it could go forever.
Yeah, like a perfect C shape.
Exactly, where the Chronic's got a little bit more snap to it. 1,850 grams. So in a lot of ways, if you think back to the Oblivion and the Poacher, this is kind of like combining those 2 skis.
Yeah.
This sort of falls right in between them. The Chronic has for a long time been a favorite among park skiers, so certainly really, really good park application in this ski. Still, one of those skis that, like we've looked at so far, has a relatively symmetrical profile. So that's about how long the tip rocker is. Tail rocker is very, very similar in length. And then you get nice amount of camber underfoot, and like we just looked at in the flex pattern, it's got that nice snappy feel to it. 2 recommended mount points on this ski, so I always find that interesting. We didn't really look closely to that on the Oblivion, but the Oblivion has further forward or further back positions. This ski either has a center line or one that's about 2 centimeters back, maybe 2.5. So certainly a ski that's designed to be used by someone who is probably going to be skiing in the park, probably going to be skiing switch a little bit. It's not quite as stable as the Poacher, but I think it's a little easier going. So if you're more in the intermediate range, maybe this would be better for you. Maybe you're a lighter weight skier, I think the Chronic might be better for you. maybe you are a really high level skier, you just don't go really big and you prefer kind of technical jib stuff more than like 80-foot tabletops with that Poacher. That's really where the Chronic shines. And yeah, I think for anybody that has kind of a freestyle mindset and is probably just going to ski one pair of skis most of the time, yeah, the Chronic's a great choice, and it will continue to be a great choice as long as they make it. You know, this is Line's heritage, and they do it really well.
Yeah, and definitely on my list of want to try skis. You know, it's one of those ones that's kind of hard to get a demo on for us. So
yeah,
it's,
and we looked it up yesterday. This is a 178, but they make a 185.
185, yep.
So a 185 would be sweet for somebody like Bob. That's right up your alley.
Right, 95 underfoot twin tip for fun all over the mountain.
What more do you want?
I don't know, an ARV 96?
Speaking of that ARV, it happens to be next, and just another super fun ski.
Yep, we got a chance to get on these on a nice snowy day with Armada this year, some mid-January day, and these skis are the first ones I reach for. I think that, you know, like ice cream can be judged by its vanilla flavor, a ski company can be judged by its mid-90s twin tip ski, and if this works well, then everything else is going to be great too. So just over 2,000 grams, 20 grams. This is the 184, so a little bit longer of a length here. And just a whole lot of fun out of this one. We do get their AR50 sidewall here, so more sidewall underfoot, tapering to half cap, half sidewall to the tips and tails. And then just a really nice, appropriate shape and rocker to it as well. So we got the poplar and ash core here. So the poplar's pretty standard, but the ash is more dense. So that's where this extra weight is coming from. We saw the extra weight in there coming from both the fur and the amount of epoxy used in the fiberglass laminates. So there are some reasons for these extra weights. In this one, it is the ash wood. And that really gives this ski kind of that similar stability feel to that Poacher. So if you're looking for a twin tip with just a little bit more power and strength, this ARV as well as that Poacher are kind of at the top of the list there. We're still at $499.95.
Yeah, we might have. I don't know if we mentioned that for these skis.
I don't think so.
But yeah, we've been in the $499.95 price point since the Oblivion.
Yeah.
And this is the last ski that's in that price range, and then we'll be jumping up a little bit.
Similar to that Oblivion, we're seeing that nice positive camber underfoot, so really snappy ski. And then we get that same type of rocker profile here. It is a little bit less. They do a good job lining the rocker up with where the sidewall transitions to full cap. And that really gives the tips of the skis a playful feeling. And then that same theory carries through to the tails. So it's not like they're just randomly stopping sidewall and putting rocker in. They're actually thinking about it and saying, what does this do to a ski? We stop with the sidewall here, and all of a sudden we're in, you know, that last 15, 20 centimeters of the ski being very playful, very maneuverable. So a lot of the power in the business takes place underfoot here with that sidewall combined with the camber, and just makes this thing pretty darn smooth and stable. You know, has that nice solid sound to it. You just get that good quality feeling out of this, you know, with that nice flex and good snap to it. So, you know, whether you're in the park or not, you know, just like we've said for these other ones, really good overall versatility. You know, it's not too stiff, not too soft, kind of right in the middle of a lot of things. And, you know, we'll say that about a lot of these, is that it checks a lot of boxes. Certainly one of the better performing all-mountain twin tips here, and you know, we do get their freestyle mount point, which is actually a little bit back from true center, and then a factory recommended about 2 centimeters back. So, you know, some opportunity there for customization and how you want the ski to be. A little more park, a little more all mountain, but really a whole lot of fun and just a great value.
Yeah, all the skis we've looked at so far are a great value, and yeah, I mean, the construction's different. You know, I think the most noticeable difference between this and the Poacher is kind of the step down sidewall to cap construction feel. I do think the extremities of this ski are a little softer than the Poacher, but overall very, very similar performance between this and the Poacher. No reason why this couldn't win the Olympics this year either. They just don't have Colby Stevenson.
Yeah.
Next ski on the wall is the Volkl Blaze 94, and with this ski we're jumping up in price to $549.95. And I think from here on out, this is where we start to see more unique technology, more unique applications of different materials. All of these skis that we've looked at so far use some combination of wood or wood and carbon.
Yeah.
So from there, this ski actually marks a point where we're starting to see some different materials in the ski as well. This might be the lightest ski up here, just under 1,600 grams, 1,585. This is a 179 centimeter length, I do believe. And Blaze 94 is a whole lot of fun.
Yep.
I feel like people didn't really know what to think of these when they first came out. There were a lot of existing Volkl skiers on stuff like this ski that were kind of like, what am I going to use that for? And then the more people skied it, people started realizing its capabilities as just a super, super fun all-mountain ski. So, you know, going back to the sick day, you want to talk about a ski that's just as good inbounds as it is out of bounds. The Blaze 94 is awesome. It's got a hybrid multi-layer wood core, so very similar to, you know, we talked about the Revolt 95 down there. Volkl uses that multi-layer wood core in a ton of their skis. The Blaze gets a strip of synthetic material right down the middle, which you can actually see in the construction a little bit. It's a little bit lighter than the rest of the ski. That brings the weight down. It actually adds some kind of vibration damping too. We get rubber up here in the tips, so that's pretty cool. And then we get this specifically engineered binding plate, which is more than just a binding retention piece of metal. It's designed to provide performance too. It goes all the way to the edges where your bindings are, and then it's got just these like quick little cutouts or quick little extensions into the mid and aft sections of the ski. And then shape is pretty cool in these Blaze skis. Tons of rocker. There's really not much camber in them at all. So the tip rocker starts where my hand is. Tail rocker, a little bit less, but still pretty darn long. And then there's really not much camber underfoot whatsoever. And then we get 3D radius, which is always fun to read off the ski because it's kind of silly. Silly in just what it sounds like when you read it, not silly in performance. So this ski is 38 meters in the tip, 17 underfoot, and 31 meters in the tail. And that 3D radius combined with the rocker profile gives this ski like almost two different personalities. In softer snow, you know, it's perfectly catch-free. It's very easy to maneuver the ski in variable snow conditions and softer snow conditions through technical terrain, through tight trees, through moguls, through tight little chutes, stuff like that. We have a lot of that at Stowe, and I think that's where people were really starting to find the benefit of this ski. You know, skiers like Christy Brown, who you often will find her on a Mantra or a Secret 96 or something like that. She has started skiing these more and more and more because they're just incredibly agile. The other side of the performance spectrum is when you're carving a turn, or if you want to make it more of a traditional turn, you really just have to weight the midsection of the ski, kind of gas pedal it, kind of push into this portion of the ski, and you'll engage that 19-meter radius underfoot. You'll benefit from that metal underfoot, and it can carve a pretty impressive turn. It's not nearly as stable or as precise as that M6 Mantra or that whole grouping of skis right there, but still really good, you know, especially when you're considering how light it is.
Right.
So, very good ski, and you want to talk about complementing skis within a line. Revolt 95, Blaze 94, and then M6 Mantra are perhaps the best complementary skis that I can possibly think of.
Right, for being within 2 to 3 millimeters of each other in width.
2 millimeters.
Yeah.
94, 95, 96. and you get just drastic different performance between them. So
Right.
you could have a 3-ski quiver with those 3 skis in the same width range, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
A lot to like about the Blaze 94.
Yep. And you know, there's a lot of skiers that are maybe looking for this. That would be a lot better off on that.
Sure, yeah.
And we also see, you know, like in our media days when we ski with Volkl personnel, like that's what they use.
Yeah.
You know, as their ski to
Cruise around.
Yeah. And they love it. And they love, you know, and then the 86 as well.
Yep.
You know, lighter without the metal. But yeah, I mean, it's just a fantastic ski. And for 94 and having that tip rocker, it's a pretty good floater.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and they do have that little tail notch for the skin as well, just to kind of keep it, you know, keep their marketing senses activated, you know, and have it be kind of bordering on that free ride touring spectrum.
Yeah, and it's really good at that application. You know, maybe a Western skier would want to go wider to the Blaze 106, but here on the East Coast, 94 is a lot of the time all you need.
Yep.
So, great ski.
And then in terms of really just overall well-rounded, fun-loving versatility, I think that this one kind of distances itself from the pack in a couple of unique ways.
Yeah, and another $50 price jump here,
What
too.
are we at here? $649?
$599.
$599. Okay. So yeah, just under $600 for this. We are getting some refinements in construction as well. We see kind of a lot of the similar things that came along with the Blaze 94, but used in a different way.
Yeah.
So this is the 94 FR, and this Ranger series really has figured out a lot of things well. And you know, kind of a tight grouping like we talked about with the Volkls. There's the 92 Ti, the 94 FR, the 99 Ti, 102
Yep.
FR. So there's a lot going on kind of in a short distance. So kind of what separates this from the pack is its lighter weight and its energy. And Fischer does that in a couple of interesting ways. This is the slightly shorter 177, 1710, 1700 grams just about. So pretty darn light, but we get a surprising amount of energy out of this ski. They use their wood core in their arrow shape design, so it's flat, full sidewall underfoot, and then they kind of mill it into a convex shape in the tails and then through the tips. And this puts more emphasis and stability in that central cord or the spine of the ski. Really gives it a surprising amount of stability. You know, we got these things up to speed a couple years ago, and I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, as long as you have the appropriate length.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've got some stability to them.
Stiffer flex than you might think for a ski without metal, whereas the Blaze here has that metal that does go edge to edge underfoot. There is a binding retention metal plate in here, but it's really just specific for binding retention. It's not structural like it is in the Blaze 94. And then carbon nose is another thing that really adds to the uniqueness of this ski. So, you know, right about from here, it's a carbon laminate under the top sheet here. Adds to that lightness not only in weight but also in swing weight. So we're seeing this ski just really hook up easily and bring you into the turn quickly and with a lot of agility. Really good floater as well because of that lighter weight, and then this nice low long splay here makes this thing plane up and over the fresh snow quite nicely. And then that longer taper shape as well, pretty unique to this. You know, this is probably the widest part here. Right where that sidewall ends and that carbon nose begins. Again, you know, some design going in there as well. You know, maybe a freestyle skier wouldn't call this a twin tip, but
it's close enough.
Close enough. You
Yeah.
can ski backwards, you can take this thing in the park. You know, it might be on the stiffer and less compliant side for, you know, a backseat landing if you find yourself there, but certainly enough of a turned up tail to be used in a freestyle setting. More so to be helping with the release portion of the turn, you know, backing out of tight spots. This is a fantastic tree ski, great in the bumps for here, where we get a lot of tight lines both in the trees and in the bumps. But from, you know, on and off trail, this thing checks a whole lot of boxes for a whole lot of skiers.
Yeah.
And just a ton of fun. You know, it's not quite as damp as the 92 Ti, you know, nor as wide and burly as the 99 Ti, but a really nice mix.
Yeah. And somewhat of a departure from the twin tips that we've looked at so far, in the sense that these are all kind of, take the sick day out of there, these are kind of designed more for park, but are still capable as all mountain skis, where this feels like it's designed more as an all mountain ski, but it's capable in the park.
Yeah.
I know people that ski park on this and do just fine. It's not as symmetrical in its rocker camber profile as these skis, so not quite as balanced. So if you're like a dedicated park skier, you'll probably find more benefits in skis over there. But if you're a mostly all mountain skier that likes to dabble in the park, there's a ton of benefits to this ski.
Yeah, and people like in our ski test feedback and comments and stuff, we found that people are surprised at the grip of those. And for a ski without metal, if you hear about it consistently like that, it becomes, you know, part of the ski's personality.
Yeah, and I feel like that's true within the entire Ranger line.
Yeah.
They all have a lot of precision in
Yeah.
how they carve and stuff like that. Okay, next ski we have up here is the Rossignol Escaper, technically the Rossignol BLACKOPS Escaper. I feel like this ski got a little bit overshadowed last year by skis like the Sender and Sender Ti, even the Holy Shred. For some reason, those skis feel a little bit more popular, where this Escaper might be more beneficial to a bigger, you know, broader range of skiers.
I mean, their marketing puts it in free touring.
Yeah, which I don't think is correct.
It's not on the same catalog page as the Sender.
Right.
Which I think kind of
feels like somewhat of a mistake.
I think so, you know, and that may be more of a European market, but definitely I feel like a lot, and similar response to in test results to the Fischer, is this was, bless you.
Thank you.
A very well-received ski for here in Stowe as a resort-oriented ski, so.
Yep. So this is the Escaper. In a lot of ways, it's built pretty similarly to the Sender and Sender Ti, but it is designed to be a little bit lighter. So we got a Polonia wood core in these skis. We also get their Diago fiber, which is pretty similar to carbon alloy matrix. Not exactly the same thing, but pretty similar concept at least. And then we get Damp Tech in the tip, so they're putting some rubber up there in the tip too. All that adds up to a ski that's around 1,750 grams. So if you think back to when we were talking about the Blaze 94, talking about how it kind of crosses over between inbounds and out of bounds, this ski does too. Maybe it leans a little bit more towards inbounds, but it's certainly still something that you could put a touring binding on. And in my opinion, you know, now that Rossignol, the widest ski in the Experience line, is 86 now, this is perhaps the most versatile all-mountain ski that Rossignol makes.
Yeah, and I don't think they would disagree with that.
No,
you know.
I think that's the idea behind it. You know, it's 94 underfoot. It's a very well-rounded ski. So going back to putting it in the free touring collection, just it feels like that's not doing it justice.
I mean, it could and should be in both. You know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Talk about that a lot.
Yeah, super agile, but also carves really well too. 100% a directional ski, so we've looked at a lot of twin tips so far. Even that Ranger 94, like, yeah, that's directional, but it's still a twin tip. This is not by any means. So tip rocker starts about where my hand is. Pretty nice tip shape here, kind of that gradual taper, very similar to an Enforcer tip. That's kind of carried over through the entire BLACKOPS line. And then, like I said, not much tail rocker back here compared to tip rocker, not much splay either. And then in the tail, there's very subtle taper. In fact, the widest point of the ski is still probably right there, so not too much taper back there. Underfoot, there's pretty good amount of camber. Nice, snappy, poppy, energetic camber as well, which really comes through in this ski's performance. So when you're carving turns on this ski, it might not be the most powerful ski up here. In fact, it's not the most powerful ski up here, but it's got a very energetic, supportive feel. I don't think that, like, I don't think the majority of skiers would find the limit of this ski. Some really aggressive skiers might find the limit of this ski, but there's plenty of heavier, stiffer skis for people like that. On the other hand, this is just a very beneficial ski for the majority of the skiing population. Right. You don't need much more than this. It's going to give you enough stability. It's not going to feel like it's washing out. You know, it is lighter, but it's pretty supportive in its flex pattern. You know, it's not a soft flexing ski by any means.
No,
so
it's
you get some good kind of snap and pop and stability out of a carving turn. And then when you take it off trail, that's where the light weight is really, really beneficial. So you don't get much tail rocker back there, but because it's so light, it's pretty easy to flick around. It's also a good ski for, like, skiing is kind of a lifelong journey, you know, so everyone's still working on their technique, but maybe you're really working on your technique. You want to take your skiing to the next level. I think a ski like the Escaper is really good because it's gonna suggest that you do things correctly.
Yeah.
It's not forcing you to do things correctly. It's not like tremendously unforgiving. Like some skis that we will talk about are pretty darn unforgiving. But because of the responsiveness out of the tail, it is going to kind of say like, hey, you should do this rather than let your weight get, you know, if you're skiing with good technique, it's going to respond accordingly. So I think it's a good tool for somebody who might still be progressing a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had, you know, one of my friends who's, you know, about my size skied on this in the test, and he's like, I couldn't find its limit. You know, he has a strong alpine background.
Yep.
And he was totally impressed. And,
yep.
You know, I got on our day at Sugarbush, a little bit softer snow, and wonderful. Yep. You know, there's really no complaints about this ski at all.
Yeah, and maybe it was the color, you know, for last year it was red. Yeah. I don't know if that scared some people away.
It's a great looking ski.
Yeah, now it's a really, really good looking ski. You could put whatever binding you want on there and it would look awesome. You know, like a colored pivot would look sweet.
I think the silver pivot would look great.
That would look great too. So, yeah, I think I would venture a guess that you're going to see more Escapers on the hill this year.
Whatever color pivot you choose to put on this.
Right.
I support. And this is our last one, sub 600. This is the Blizzard Rustler 9, and we had included this on our 88 to 90 millimeter comparison, or 88 to 92, I should say. This one dips below. This one is the 94. This is at the 180. But once you get shorter, it dips to the 92. So about as much of a crossover as you can find in a ski. You know, we wanted some Blizzard representation in here. You know, that the Bonafide 97
close,
close. You know, that was 1 millimeter wider than what we wanted to do. So, you know, that Bonafide 97 would have fit in just fine right here as well. But I think us having this in two comparisons is a testament to just the overall well-roundedness,
very well-rounded ski,
composure of this thing. We're a little bit over 2,000 grams, 2020 just about in this 180. And as we've talked about before, kind of the big thing here is this partial metal laminate, contributing to that dynamic release technology. So having this metal full underfoot and then tapering into the forebody of the ski and then as well into the tail really sets you up for success in terms of playful initiation and completion of the turn, as well as having the energy and the grip and the stability to really kind of take this thing and give it just a boost of performance.
Yep.
Really surprising edge grip. You know, I remember my first Rustler 9 experience years ago and getting on this 180 and thinking, nope, I need the 188. But then a couple turns in, I was pretty surprised at the amount of energy that this thing was able to create, even at this shorter length. We are getting some good splay here in the tip. That's directly out of that free ride influence. You know, with this Rustler series, there is soft snow implications. This pretty dramatic splay is going to keep this thing up and out of the snow pretty well. And then I would say kind of similar to the Fischer in terms of tail splay and more of that, you know, I wouldn't call it a freestyle twin tip. I would say this is a turned up tail that has some freestyle implications.
Yep.
Again, the metal and kind of the weight kind of knock it out of that being a priority for a skier, but certainly doesn't keep you out of the park. And then that metal ends where the rocker begins in both the tip and tail, showing just a nice attention to detail from the good engineers here at Blizzard. So where that metal ends is where the rocker begins, allowing you to really access the metal-free portions of the ski, allowing you to get that playful performance. And then some camber underfoot, you know, not a ton, more similar to, I would say, where we were with the Blaze versus the Escaper, but still just a really good amount of edge grip under there. And, you know, if you don't know what ski you want and you want something in the low to mid-90s, you could get this or any of the skis on the wall, but this one kind of sticks out to us as that ski you can get and enjoy anytime, anywhere.
Extremely well-rounded.
Yep. And that's about all there is to say about the Rustler 9.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I'll add is it comes up in conversations with this ski
Yeah.
a lot, mostly from people, kind of like what we were saying about this ski, is mostly from people who are saying something like, I mostly ski all mountain, but I'd like to go in the park, or I'd like to have the ability to ski backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the Rustler, it falls into that category too. I don't think it's quite as good in the park or doing like freestyle-y things as the Ranger, but certainly something that you could do on it.
Yeah.
It's not just, it's not, it'll let you do that. It's directional, so it's not going to feel particularly balanced if you're like doing spins and
Right.
stuff like that. But if you just want to like go hit some park jumps, no problem here.
I think we need some new terminology for like on-piste freestyle.
Sure.
You know, whether you're, you know, on-piste freestyle or a freestyle carving ski.
Right.
You know, something like that where you're doing tricks on the mountain, not necessarily in the park.
Yep. And it does feel like that's a growing category
Yeah.
of skiers and skis too.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe down the road that's something that we will have more,
Right.
you know, more subcategories within that kind of all mountain twin tip realm.
Right.
And the next one falls right into that category as
That's
well. So
Fantastic contender.
a ton of similarities actually between the Rustler 9 and this ski, in my opinion. The origins to me feel a little bit lighter. What was the weight of the Rustler 9?
Just over 20.
Yeah, so this ski we're dropping down into the mid 1800 range, so 1800 and about 50 grams is where the scale is landing right now. And basically, the way that Liberty achieves that is through different construction, notably how they use metal, which we'll talk about in just a second. Before the metal, there is bamboo, poplar, and then also carbon in this ski. So bamboo and poplar are both lightweight materials, so we're starting off with a lightweight core. Obviously carbon's not adding much weight, and then these new Origin 96 get VMT 1.0. So we get one vertical strip of metal through the center of the ski. So as opposed to the partial horizontal metal laminate in the Rustler, this is a full-length vertical strip of metal.
Yep.
So if you think about the implications in terms of how much metal is actually in the ski, there's less metal in this ski. It's just used in a different way. So that's kind of where they're bringing that weight down. Shape, on the other hand, is pretty similar between the two. We get some nice tip and tail rocker in a directional shape. So tip rocker starts about where my hand is. Tail rocker's not quite as long, and again, kind of that same conversation, like, is it a twin tip? I don't know. It's pretty close. Would a park skier call it a twin tip? Probably not. Would my dad call it a twin tip? Probably. I think that's a pretty good way to describe it. And then nice amounts of camber underfoot. That's kind of important to the ski's construction and overall performance as well. Very, I almost took my hat off. Very, very snappy flex pattern in these skis, which is something that has always been true with Liberty skis. I feel like if it didn't have an energetic, snappy feel, it just wouldn't be a Liberty.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, it's very similar to the ski it's replacing, the Origin 96 without VMT 1.0. It's still very agile, it's still very energetic, it's still very quick. It's a blast in the moguls, it's a blast in the trees. Like, if I had to just ski Vermont trees all year, like I had to get off the lift and like immediately go into the trees.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would enforce that, but say that was my task for the season. This, I might choose this.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good ski, very, very quick and agile in the trees. By putting that extra, or putting that one vertical strip of metal in it, they are boosting its stability, boosting its counterflexing in particular. You know, that metal does a really good job in quieting the tip of the ski so it's not bouncing around too much. So that has boosted its edge grip, boosted its overall stability, all that kind of stuff. I think that the Rustler 9 feels a little stronger still, but this feels quicker. So if you're in this range, you know, maybe you're looking at Ranger, Rustler, Origin 96, this is on the quicker, more energetic side of the spectrum, more similar to the Ranger, I would say, than the Rustler.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, among all mountain twin tips, there's a whole lot to like about this ski, and certainly one that, you know, it's way more leaning towards the all mountain side of the spectrum than anything to do with freestyle at this point. You know, Liberty has some other skis that are more like the Helix 98, the Helix series are true freestyle twin tips, where this is, you know, it feels like the brand is growing up a little with these Origin skis, and the fact that they're very, very good all mountain free ride skis.
Yeah, I think the addition of that metal strut to the Origin and Genesis line is a big upgrade.
Yeah.
And I own a previous version of this, which I liked, but when I got on these, I said, oh, this is, for me, a significant upgrade. You know, and also I'd add that the bamboo combines well with that. It's a unique feel, and we talked about it with the Evolve series skis as well.
Yeah.
That it's a different feel than anything up here on the wall. Kind of makes it quieter, definitely like a silent feel to it. You don't feel a whole lot under your foot.
Yeah.
Also, kind of the rounder shape of that ski, I think, makes it one of the rounder turners, a little more drifty and slashy capable.
Yep. Sure.
It's not pigeonholed to that, but I think if you want to release the tails and smear a turn, that's one of our better options so far.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned the price, but we're over 600, so $629.99 on this Origin. So
yeah, a little bit of a jump up in price from the Rustler, but yeah, just a great ski. And going back to, you mentioned this about Line, that we weren't able to include some of their skis in previous comparisons. Same is true with Liberty. We would have loved to have the Origin 101 in the 100mm comparison video. Their shipment was a little bit delayed, so psyched to have the Origin 96 up here.
yeah, and the 106 in that category as well. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely, again, the line of skis within that brand is very impressive, and the end result is the skier gets better choices of what they use it for.
Yep.
That's good stuff. Now we're moving on to this side of the wall here. We got the Head Core 93 to kick it off. $649, so a little bump up from the Origin here. And similar to what we've talked about with the skis in a particular line, this Core series, certainly one of the better known, you know, kind of right up there with Enforcer and just kind of having the brand within the brand. And these Core 93s kind of really started it off.
Yep.
You know, I would say it's the flagship model of the Core line. One of the most well-rounded, as we could say about a lot of these skis on the wall. What differentiates these is the blend of lightweight and stiff flex. So an interesting use of carbon with these Core series skis. We're hovering right around 1640 grams here. Now we're in the 177. So they did change the lengths and a little bit of the construction for 2022. So we were kind of stuck with a 9 centimeter break previously. Now we're down to 7. So it goes 177, 184, and then up to the 191, and then down as well. So a little bit tighter of of a spread of sizes, and that's going to help more skiers kind of find where they are. And then from a performance perspective, we're dealing with some of the quicker skis on the wall. The use of their Karuba wood core combined with the carbon laminates. They still have graphene, they've ditched the Koroyd, so it makes it a little bit more compliant. But I mean, my goodness, if we were doing softest to stiffest on this comparison, I would put this
it's good.
right close to the end. So it's that combination that's really interesting, of having it be light and stiff. So as a result, you're going to get a lot of precision out of these. Each and every movement that you put through your boot into the binding onto the ski, going to get translated really quickly and really efficiently into the edge. As we move up and down in these core series of skis, we see an appropriate change of both taper and rocker. So now we're seeing that taper get brought up more, in leading to that better edge grip at the start, longer effective edge, smoother turns, and longer rounder turns. And then that same theory carries through to the tail, where that widest part is closer to the very end of the ski. Yeah. Still kind of that nice rounded shape. Definitely that free ride mentality filters down. Not a whole lot of splay here, certainly in that directional category. And then in the tip, not a whole lot of rocker either. You know, kind of more abrupt at the very tip, but I think that, you know, it lines up well with that taper shape, so you're going to get good edge grip and contact as a result, not only from the way these are shaped and profiled, but also the construction. So we see that in all the core skis. As they get narrower, it becomes more obvious. So, you know, another weight savings technique they use is just this top sheet is incorporated into the ski. There's not an additional laminate, so you do get that weight savings there as well.
Somewhat similar to Stockli.
Yeah, exactly. So putting that as the first point of contact, you're going to get that better level of transmission of energy, and that's really what it's all about. So nice blend. You know, we've kind of seen a lot of skiers on these at Stowe over the years.
Yep.
Great choice. You know, it's a great ski for hard snow. You know, stiff ski works better on harder snow. Kind of counteracts the lightweight, but people also like that lightweight for the tighter spots we have. So, you know, it's just a really good choice given the terrain and conditions that we have here in northern Vermont. You know, I wouldn't say it's the best choice everywhere, but I think it lines up really well with kind of traditional New England skiing, as well as kind of firmer Western conditions.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, but the Core 93 and the Enforcer 94, they come up in questions a lot. I think just because of the similarities in their shape. There's like we'll see it when we get to that ski, but there's like a 600 gram difference between those two skis.
Yeah, no, big mass change.
So it's really, you know, it really just comes down to personal preference, whether you want a ski that's heavier and more damp, or you want a ski that's lighter and more responsive. So there aren't too many similarities between them other than shape.
Right.
But if you are, you know, if you've kind of decided that like this shape works for me, then you have two very different constructions and very different feels to choose from, which is kind of cool.
I would say that this is easier on the knees.
Yeah,
you know, we get a lot of
totally.
that. I want something that's easy on the knees.
Yep.
I would put the Core into that category for sure.
Yep. So sticking in the same price, I believe. Yep, we're still in the $649 price range here. We will see a $150 increase going to the black version of this ski. So this is the Elan Ripstick 96. It feels like we've talked about these quite a lot, but I'm perfectly happy to talk about them because they're a whole lot of fun. One of those skis with very unique construction. In fact, all of Elan's skis have pretty unique construction, pretty unique shapes too, actually, with the asymmetrical shaping. But let's talk about construction first. So there's a tube light wood core in these skis, which refers to actual carbon tubes that in this ski run along the edges. So kind of just inside the sidewalls, you have three-dimensional carbon rods. We've talked about that at length, but using carbon in a three-dimensional application provides more vibration damping. So it's kind of taking forces from every different angle instead of a horizontal sheet or a horizontal laminate is really only kind of working with forces in a up and down perspective, where this is much more three-dimensional. Glenn Plake explains it better than I do, I think. I got to ride the lift with Glenn and chat about these skis, and it was really fascinating to hear him just kind of break down how that works. But all we really need to know is that this provides better vibration damping than most skis that use carbon. I think that's what has risen to the top of its resulting performance. They also use carbon in a different way in this ski, so we get carbon line, so we get an increased amount of carbon along the inside edge, and that's more of a traditional horizontal laminate. That corresponds to the asymmetrical shape in these skis, so you get a right and a left ski. So this here being the left ski means that you get more rocker along the outside edge and more camber along the inside edge. So kind of corresponding to the fact that you get more carbon along the inside edge, you also get more camber. So that means you get more edge grip from the inside edge of your outside ski, which is where you need it most. If you're skiing correctly, that you're putting more weight or more force on the outside ski when you're in a carving turn. By shaping them that way, it also gives them a very intuitive feel. The outside edge is always kind of ready to enter the next turn because it's already bent in that shape to pull you into the turn. So it gives them a very intuitive feel when linking carving turns. It's not the most powerful ski up here, but it does have a relatively supportive flex pattern and quite a lot of grip. They put their vapor tip inserts in this ski, so they lighten up the tip quite a bit. And Bob, I know this is something that you've felt. So the tip of the ski is quite a bit softer than the rest of it. For a heavier skier like Bob, you may find it folding a little bit, or it at least feels like it might, which might not be the most confidence-inspiring thing. For a lighter weight skier like myself, I never felt that whatsoever. And to me, they just have a very snappy, energetic, just rewarding feel in how they link turns. It doesn't have the most drastic rocker profile in general. You know, we kind of forget about the asymmetrical part of it. Rocker's about that long. Tail rocker's, you know, fairly similar, but a little shorter. Not the most rockered ski, but because it's on the lighter weight side of the spectrum at just under 1,800 grams, and with that rocker profile, it's pretty darn maneuverable off-piste too. Really, really fun ski for maneuvering through trees, really fun ski for carving turns too. So definitely a winner. Elan has been impressing us with these Ripstick skis for sure.
And I found them to operate better at higher edge angles.
Yeah, they love to be up on edge.
Yeah, and you know, once you get past this part of the ski, for someone like me, the rest of it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's really just that very tip at high speeds. If you drive your shin into your boot and try to really jam on this tip, you'll feel it. Other than that, I don't see any real reason to say this is too soft. Not by a long shot. Kind of different tip construction technology here in our next ski. This is the Volkl Mantra M6. So new technology in construction for this ski for this year, for 2022. You know, they just keep improving. They borrow some things from the existing line, and they add some new things that will likely filter into future models as well. So pretty interesting stuff. Like, how do you improve on a legendary ski like the Mantra? The good people of Volkl have really kind of figured it out. They've used their knowledge and experience and put it forward to here. Tip in the scales, 2050, 2070 grams. This is the 177. And now we are at, what are we at here?
Yeah, a little jump up in price
$6.99.
here, another $50 jump from the Ripstick.
Yep, so $699.99, just a penny under $700.
And we will be staying in that $699 range for the next 4 skis.
Okay. Which, when we were looking at the wall, said, yep, these are the 4 skis that I would choose.
That makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
that these are a shade under $700.
Yep.
All very similar in terms of their capability. This tailored carbon in the tips here, they've borrowed this from their V-Works series skis. So their Deacon V-Works has this, and so they took that and put it in the Mantra. Gives this thing even more precision at the entry point to the turn. We're still dealing with their multi-layer wood core, so the main core construction is the same. We get the tailored carbon in the tips, and then we get their tailored Titanal frame. So that's a new technology I would assume we're going to see it in other Volkl Titanal frame skis in the future.
Yep.
Just because it's kind of the new trend in ski construction to begin with, which is to alter the amount of metal per size of the ski. So the old frame used to be one thickness running throughout. This has multiple thicknesses to put different emphasis on different parts of the ski. And it works. You know, you really want this thing to be precise in the tip and then be strong through here. So when you get into the forebody of the ski, that's where it's at its widest. So you really get that thing to hook on and grab in. You know, for a ski that's kind of has that all mountain / free ride personality, this is one of the more precise carvers on this wall. Certainly has an amazing amount of edge grip for what it is, you know, not just at 96 underfoot, but in general. And those of you that have skied a Mantra, you know, it's certainly an M5 in the past. It's not a huge departure, but there are some upgrades for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing this one's getting is the 3D radius side cut. So that's new for this. The Secret 96 gets it as well. It is, you know, the Secret 96 is an identical construction to this with a different top sheet. So the ladies that want this performance with a different graphic, there's that option as well. But yeah, we get that 3D radius. So I'll read the numbers like Jeff here. What do we got here? 30, 18, and 24. So not that dissimilar from that Blaze. But, you know, again, following with their construction techniques, a little bit longer in the shovel and through the tail. And then if you want to stand on that midsection of the ski, you're going to get more of that kind of cheater GS style of carving performance. So, you know, you let it run and it's smooth and long, but if you step on it and jam on it, you're going to be able to get more of that slalom style.
Yep.
You know, make no mistake, this thing is still that stiff Mantra with just an incredible amount of power and snap. That frame does not continue through, so it does start forebody and tail, allowing the ski to get that nice midpoint flex and really create those round turns. And I think that's important, especially with the addition of that 3D radius to this ski. So, you know, great improvement to an already awesome product. You know,
yeah, the M5 Mantra was awesome.
Yep.
We were psyched when they came out with that ski. It was a
Yep.
drastic improvement from the previous Mantra that was reverse camber, and it's just kind of weird. So yeah, Volkl took the M5 Mantra, which was a winner. It had some strong following. A lot of people really liked it. Great reviews across the board. They took it and just refined it, made it that much better. But it's still very, very similar.
Yeah.
Just a little bit better. You know,
Yeah.
I think more refined is the right way to describe that. Where, you know, sometimes I can't think of a great example, but sometimes a manufacturer will change a ski and it really feels like a different ski. This feels like the same ski, just more refined.
Yeah, and same sizes. So if you are a 177 M5 skier,
you're still a 177.
You're still a 177.
Yep. Next ski up here is the Stance 96 from Salomon. Love that this ski is right after the M6 Mantra because I think there's a lot of similarities between the two. We see a lot of similarities in their shape as well. Wood core in this ski, and then we get metal twin frame construction. So 2 sheets of metal. The sheet of metal along the top kind of has these windows cut into it. So that's where we see some similarities between the M6 Mantra and this ski. So they're taking some metal out of the center of the ski. Now Volkl is taking more metal out of their ski, which kind of makes sense in the fact that this ski comes up to 2,150 grams.
Yeah.
So a little bit more hefty feel to this ski. And interestingly, I also think it has more freeride influence in its overall design and performance. A lot of people ask us between M6 Mantra and this ski, which that's a really good question because you've identified two skis that are very, very similar on paper, but they do have a different feel. So that construction results in a ski that's pretty darn stiff, pretty supportive. I would say a fairly similar flex pattern to the M6 Mantra, but a little stiffer right underfoot. And then taking a look at shape, that's kind of where the more freeride influence comes into play, at least in my opinion. So the tip rocker starts about there, and I think it's got a little bit more splay than the M6 Mantra if we were to look at them back to back. And then same is true in the tail. So, you know, not very long, but some good splay back there. And then nice poppy, snappy camber underfoot. There's a lot of camber in this ski. And in general, you know, like I was saying, just feels like it has a little bit more freeride influence in its overall performance. So a little bit more taper in the tip shape, a little bit more splay in the rocker profile, so a little bit easier to release the tail edge, kind of get that smearing, skidding performance. If you're in the trees, if you're in soft snow, those things are real benefits. Still very, very strong on trail too. You know, I would say it doesn't feel quite as precise as the M6 Mantra. It's also not quite as easy to manipulate into different turn shapes because of that. A lot of that is because of the 3D radius. But still a very, very strong carving ski. So, you know, maybe the M6 Mantra leans a little bit more towards the carving side of the spectrum in this category. This feels like a very, very well-rounded all-mountain ski for a strong skier. Somebody that wants a heavier ski, somebody that wants something with a lot of stability. You know, we talked about these being very well-rounded all-mountain skis, or even like the Sick Day being a very well-rounded all-mountain ski, or the Ripstick 96 being a very well-rounded all-mountain ski. This falls under that same umbrella, but it's more powerful. Yeah. So if you're a heavier skier, like, you know, somebody like yourself, Bob, or if you just love skiing really fast, Stance 96 is a great choice.
I've had more success on that than this personally.
Cool.
You know, that's just what I felt and what I like to do more.
Which is interesting because I would probably say the opposite.
For yourself, yeah.
Yeah, at my weight, it's a little easier to get like some kind of get the M6 to do what I want. This just feels like, to me, it's like an endless stability.
Yeah.
You could throw it like and do those like kind of side slashy. This ski will do whatever you want, and it's unflinching.
I get frustrated with this because it's kind of unheralded. I would say this is one of the better overlooked skis on this wall here.
Yep.
Whether it's the graphic doesn't pop, or it's in its second year of existence, so it hasn't quite developed a following. Obviously, there's a Mantra following at this point, and Enforcer following at this point. I don't think the Stance is quite caught up. Do not let that discount the performance and just awesomeness of that ski.
Yeah, no, it's a great design.
Yeah, and another cool part, this is the 182. We also get a 188. So there's 6 centimeter brakes on this one, really allowing you to, home in on your proper size.
And I know you always really like it when brands give you a nice long length like that.
Yep. And then, to move on to this one, I don't even know if I need the 191 anymore on this one. 186 is going to be more than enough, especially at this weight here. This Enforcer 94, 22, what do we got here? 22, 23, just hovering around 2,300 grams, so stiffest or heaviest by almost 300 grams so far.
Like we said, I mean, about 600 grams heavier than that
right.
Core 93.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Almost 700 grams heavier.
Yep. And so with that, we get this full wood core. We get 2 sheets of metal. Heavy on the scale, heavy on your feet on the chairlift, not heavy on the snow. They do that through the shaping and the profile of the ski, which is pretty impressive. And we've talked about this with these Enforcer skis in the past. I mean, pretty stiff, pretty heavy, but yet incredibly agile. My first time on this new 94 last year, 2 years ago, whenever it came out, these years are blowing by. I was super impressed, and like I like the Enforcer 93. I think that what they did with this one just takes it to a new level. It's not the 1 millimeter of difference. It's more that they made the tips a little bit more agile.
Yep.
But the fact that you can make any turn, any time, on any conditions or terrain, really set this ski apart from pretty much anything else that we've talked about. And as we've said before with the Enforcers, this side cut extending beyond the rocker allows this to enter the turns easily. You get that long effective edge, and then a fairly flat tail. You know, as these Enforcers get narrower, we're seeing more on-piste oriented shaping and profiling. So pretty minimal splay. Again, you're gonna be able to hold that edge for a pretty long amount of time in the turn, but a nice round finish, like almost similar to that Origin in terms of the shape of the tail. So it does have some playfulness to it, but certainly if you want this thing to be all business, it'll do that. So just a strong ski. Yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's got a lot of power to it, but you know that doesn't mean that it can't do the shorter turns, the more mellow speeds. Just a really good range for skiers like this.
Yeah, a little bit shorter turn radius too.
Yeah,
Than the last two skis we looked at.
Yep.
This 186 is 18.2, and that's kind of a longer
like
length
20.
too.
Yeah.
So that, in my opinion, that kind of helps counteract the weight and the stiffness in the sense that it comes across the fall line a little easier.
Yeah.
It doesn't require as much skier input. You don't have to bend it quite as much, and it feels nice and responsive when you're making carves.
Yeah, and personally, so I own an 88 and a 100. I'm kind of a simplistic, minimalistic skier.
Get rid of them both. Get a 94.
If you offered me that trade, I would take it.
Yep.
I would trade the 88 and the 100 for this. Doesn't mean that I dislike those other two, but it's just an interesting hypothetical.
Yeah, it blends the performance of those two skis really nicely, and I think is arguably the most versatile Enforcer.
Yep.
Next up on the wall is the Atomic Maverick 95 Ti. This whole Maverick line is new from Atomic. You know, it is a different name than the skis that it's replacing, but going back to the M6 Mantra, when we said it's relatively similar to the ski it's replacing, I would say these mark a departure from the skis that they're replacing.
Yeah, not a Vantage.
Quite a bit different than the Vantage skis, although still very lightweight. So this ski is under 1,800 grams, about 1,790 grams, but we get 2 sheets of metal in here too. So Atomic calls it their Omatic core, so it's a relatively lightweight wood core, and then we get 2 thin sheets of metal. You know, we have that conversation with the Enforcers quite a bit, and the fact that the metal is thinner. Those skis are still pretty heavy. So Atomic's able to use some really thin metal but keep the weight down quite a bit, which I'm always very impressed when companies can do that. And you know, it feels like a very modern ski, and the fact that they're able to do that, put metal in it but keep the weight down drastically. People ask about these skis quite a bit in comparison to things like the Backlands and things like the Benchetler. I think we probably had that discussion at length when we did the 100 millimeter comparison. But it's kind of like you blend a Vantage ski with a Benchetler.
Right.
Is sort of a good way to think about their shape and their overall performance. So quite a bit of tip rocker up here. The tip rocker starts right where my hand is. That's also where the vertical sidewall stops. So from here up, it's cap construction. Not nearly as much tail rocker, but there is some nice amount of tail rocker back there too. Same thing, right where the vertical sidewall ends, that's where the tail rocker begins. Good amount of camber underfoot, not quite as high or as snappy as some of the skis we've looked at, but certainly enough camber. Looks like there's some sticker residue on that one. So we'll look at this one. The tip has Atomic's Horizon Tech, so they kind of, you know, they mill the sides of the base to kind of give it that surfboard boat hull style. So boosting the float and the tip of this ski, and also giving it a little bit more maneuverability in soft snow. pretty good supportive flex pattern in these skis. You know, even though they're light, they're pretty strong. So kind of, you know, I think a good way to think about these skis is they're kind of striking a balance between something like the Core 93 and something like the Stance 96. They're not as light as the Core, they're not as heavy as the Stance. They have similar free ride characteristics to both of those skis. You know, I think these skis love being off trail. They're pretty maneuverable in trees. You know, you got the combination of a lightweight ski that's going to feel quick and responsive, but also enough rocker that it's not going to be catchy. So a nice feel when you take it off trail. But then they carve really well too.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's quite to kind of compare it to all those skis that hit the $699 price range there. Maybe it's the worst carver out of those four, but like that's not a bad thing because those three skis absolutely rip.
Right.
So it might not have like the top end stability of those skis, but a very, very responsive ski, and in some ways it might carve better than those skis at more moderate speeds because of the lighter weight feel, you know, a little bit more snappy, energetic flex pattern to it. But yeah, in general, just in my opinion, a massive improvement over the Vantage skis.
Yeah.
Way more versatile, much easier when you take them off trail, not as punishing. Those Vantage skis were so stiff and without much taper that if you made a mistake, the ski really let you know. That kind of came through in some of our ski test footage. I had like more Vantage falls than any other ski. But you don't see many people falling on the Mavericks because they're much more intuitive and more forgiving while still achieving that high-end feel.
Yeah, I'm impressed with the Maverick series as a whole. You know, 88, 95, and 100 with the Ti. There's an 86 with the Carbon.
Yep.
But, you know, as always, we're going to say that these mid-90s are perhaps the most well-rounded.
Yep.
Not too many skiers are going to find the top end of these.
No,
you know,
I don't. No, certainly not. You'd have to be a really aggressive skier.
Yeah.
To find that limitation that it might have compared to those other three.
Yeah. But I found the biggest thing with this one is the tail, and we do have that.
Yeah,
that
nice
little
taper
bit more
shape.
taper here, but no loss of stiffness or energy out of it. That's, you know, a nice blend of things that these skis have.
Yep. Really good bass grind too. The way you were holding it in the light there, it's got a nice structure on it.
Fast out of the plastic. Probably not quite as fast. And I would wager to say the most unique ski on this wall, perhaps on our website.
Sure.
The line Blade. We've had this in a comparison video before, and it's always funny to try to squeeze this into a comparison because it doesn't really compare to much else.
It doesn't, yeah.
That's currently on the market today. I mean,
so people have been asking about this ski in comparison to the Mirror Core,
okay,
which I think we could actually have up here. I believe that waist width falls into this range.
No, it's narrow.
Narrower? No, you're right. But anyways, there's some similarity between those two
I would say
skis.
Theoretical similarities.
Right, but there's not much that's like this.
No, not a whole lot.
Sakana maybe?
Again, theoretical
Yeah.
comparisons in terms of its width versus its side cut.
Yeah.
So 95 underfoot, so it fits into this waist width range.
Yeah.
But 14.5 meter turn radius.
Yep.
So we have a fat slalom ski with a semi-swallowtail and twin tip.
Yeah.
Is the best way that I can describe it.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Just under 2,000 grams. This is the 176. We get a 181 as well, and that's it. So if you're kind of outside of that range, I mean, I've skied this 176.
Yep,
I haven't gotten on the 181, but I spent a good 4 to 5 days on this 176, really just trying to get to know, I just wanted to know what the deal was.
Yep.
And I had a blast. You know, from carving turns on the groomers to taking them in the bumps in the trees. I just wanted to see what the application and limitation potential was. And other than it being slightly kind of difficult to deal with this 154 millimeter
Obtuse
tip shape, I had a lot of fun. And that's really what it's all about. You know, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I also found slight difficulties driving these tips into moguls. not just the width, but this kind of really low splay to it. Stuffed it pretty good once, but overall not too bad. And then almost more splay on the tails. If they rounded this off here, might be a very symmetrical looking splay profile.
It's really interesting because when this ski first came out, like, we were all just kind of stuck in the carving mentality. Yep. Like, oh, cool, that's a carving ski, that's a carving ski, that's a carving ski. I feel like the more we skied it, the more you realized its off-trail capabilities. Yep. You know, pretty good tree ski, stuff like that. I've noticed this recently quite a bit as Line has been putting out a lot of content of their team riders, like sliding rails on it, landing switch, stuff like that. And it kind of was a good reminder that, like, yeah, there's plenty of rides back there at Ski Switch. So if you want to, like, kind of take your park and freestyle background and apply it to a carving ski, there's really nothing else out there. So a pretty unique, pretty cool ski that can do a lot of things that nothing else can do. Right. Like land a rail and then make a slalom turn.
Or a full 360-degree turn.
Right.
That's the ski for that.
Yep.
But no, I mean, it's a full sidewall real ski. It's got a wood core and then this really interesting metal laminate. So their gas pedal metal starts with this central spine here, and then it kind of tapers off like a curtain drain.
Yep.
Is my best way of describing it.
Like a fishbone.
Yeah, something like that. So they're taking this metal and putting it horizontally out to the side. It has to do that in order to increase the torsional stiffness of the ski. Yeah. In order to get this thing up on edge. So at the width, if that weren't there, it would be super sluggish. It wouldn't hold up to the forces that are meant to be exerted on this ski.
Yeah, and talk about being hard on the knees. It would be hard on the knees.
Yeah. This is one of those instances with, like, necessary metal. Yeah. You know, like, obviously you don't need metal in skis. You know, this is that without the metal, or whatever you want to call it. But this wouldn't exist in its current state without this metal. So it's an interesting way to incorporate design and engineering into the performance of a ski. So really just cool forward-thinking stuff from Line, and always enjoy talking about this and looking forward to getting.
And we did. I don't know if you mentioned it at the beginning. We did jump up in price.
Oh, okay.
Those skis to $749.
Yep.
Which I think is just indicative of the technology in that ski. There's nothing else like that.
Right.
Like the development of that probably cost a lot of money, and we're seeing that reflected in its price.
And probably just not a ton of units, as it's not like.
Yeah.
I don't know who walks into a store saying,
I would like the Line Blade.
I would like the Line Blade.
Probably somebody.
Yep.
I hope.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yep. Next up, we have the Elan Ripstick 96 Black. We talked about Bob and I have been referring to it as the Ripstick 96 Green, not just the Ripstick 96 Regular. But we talked about that ski. There's a ton of similarities between that ski and this ski, so maybe we'll get through this quicker. I don't know. But basically, everything that we said about that ski is true. This ski gets 2 more of those carbon rods. So they call it quad rod technology. Does increase the weight a little bit. So that ski, I believe, was hovering right around 1,800 grams. This one's up to 1,870, we'll call it.
Let's do this again.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do a direct comparison. So not that much, just over 1,800 grams in the green and 1,870 in the black. So we're going up a little bit in weight, but still on the lighter side of the spectrum here.
Right. And keep in mind, you're removing wood to add the carbon, so the carbon's lighter than wood.
Yep. But it is a little heavier. It's black. So very, very similar performance to the Ripstick 96. Same shape, very similar build. Those four carbon rods just take the vibration damping to the next level, to the point where this feels like it has metal in it.
Yep.
I don't think the Ripstick 96 Green feels like it has metal in it. Maybe like one sheet of thin metal or something like that. This basically performs like it has 2 full sheets of metal in it. It has that much vibration damping. It's really impressive. When you have technology like that, you're going to pay for it, and this ski does go up to $799. So a premium price. This is an $800 flat ski, which is getting up there. But when you ski it, it all makes sense, and you can justify how much it costs in its performance. So very maneuverable still, very quick. It's still light on your feet. It's still agile in the trees, but you get this thing on trail and you can ski it so fast, so hard, so aggressively. I tested the 180 length. I believe you were skiing this 188, Bob. Both of those lengths worked like perfectly for both of us, and just it's hard to say enough good things about this ski. And I would say in the year 2022, it's one of the most impressive skis on the market across the board, and perhaps is a representative of maybe what will come down the road.
Right.
Maybe more people will start using carbon in a different application than a lot of the just traditional horizontal laminates or stringers. I think like other manufacturers, in talking to them, have noticed this ski and have noticed how good it is and have skied it and have been impressed. So perhaps Elan is leading some sort of progression in ski construction. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it pans out. They're that good.
Yeah, and the additional carbon line technology as well. So
so longer
and wider underfoot.
Yep.
So it's almost like a
full sheet of carbon
I would say
underfoot.
3/4 of the whole ski, maybe.
Yep.
So there is more carbon overall.
Yeah, and that's probably where the difference in weight is coming from.
It's just as
that's where they're adding
Yeah.
something that's not existing in the green.
It's just as successful of an application of carbon as we've seen to mimic metal. It's really impressive.
Yep, really cool. Yeah, feel like a broken record, but I can't say enough good things about them.
No, it should be said.
And same is true for the next ski too.
Yeah, totally.
I can sing that ski's praise for. We could make this video 4 hours with the last 2.5 hours just talking about the Serpo and the Ripstick 96 Black.
All new for 2022. So this is a Black Crow's Serpo. This one, 1850 grams at this 180. So light-ish.
Yeah, light-ish. Very similar to that black that we just looked at.
We've talked about the Black Crow's Justice, although we didn't have it physically for the comparison video.
Had it in last year's comparison video.
Yep, and we've talked about the Orb. This one kind of splits the difference between those two. So at 93 millimeters underfoot, this ski has that H-shaped metal to add to the poplar wood core. So metal full width underfoot, and then along the edges, right to about here in the tips. And then we get that kind of gap in the middle here, and that metal goes to about here. So it's kind of like the M5 frame, but without the ends. So that metal runs along the side here, just doesn't go to the tips and tails. And as you can imagine, that adds a little bit more of the free ride playfulness to the ski, just kind of taking that top end precision out of the tips of the skis, but certainly not making it, slouchy by any stretch.
No, not at all. Slouchy is the last word I would use to describe that ski.
No, this is one of the more energetic skis we got on last year.
Very
totality. And so they line up that metal with the rocker as well. So as that metal stops, that rocker starts. Nice, pretty clean line in the tip there. And, good taper. I mean, the widest part of the ski down here a little bit, so it's a nice gentle, it still hooks up easily, but also floats pretty well. And then in the tail, a little bit more directional, a little bit more businesslike, longer in that low rocker profile here. So again, it starts where the metal ends, and just minimal splay at the back here. So you get just fantastic energy out of the tail. I think that was my most surprising reaction to this was, into
Tremendous
one turn
feedback,
and then into the next turn before you even thought about it.
Yep.
So it all adds up to a really energetic, sharp, snappy ski. Great option for around here, the metal underfoot and into the forebody and tail, make it responsive and stable and damp, and then that lighter and more playful feel in the tips, and then the energetic tail. Really kind of line up with what we do.
Yep.
Kind of here in Vermont. Nice, again, overall snappy and energetic. Some really good feedback to this ski. No issues whatsoever, and just, again, one of those like overwhelming skis. You get on it and not. I kind of felt that way about the Justice as well, where you're like, okay, I get it. This thing is, surprised me out of the box, first turn to last turn, and this one is the same way. So I think that they got something good going on with this H-shaped metal, and then, I would say this is more of a Justice tip and then more of an orb tail.
Yep.
In terms of stiffness and flex.
Yeah, and I'd say some similarities between this and the Maverick 95.
Yep.
Just in terms of their overall feel, both pretty energetic, pretty snappy and responsive, and both equally versatile.
Yeah.
Both feel like they're really good for around here.
Yeah, no, I think that this one is going to do well this year.
And it feels like there's some excitement about that Serpo too, just based on the comments that we're seeing and questions that we're receiving, and people know about it and people are interested in it. So hopefully we see a lot of them on the hill, because I think it's a fun one.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up is this Kastle FX96 Ti. We've talked about this FX line quite a bit. It was kind of, we working in the industry and dealing with manufacturers a lot, we often find ourselves kidding and joking around a little bit, and we couldn't help ourselves with this one, because last year Kastle made this ski without metal. Kind of put a lot of marketing out there saying, like, you don't need metal in your ski.
Right.
And then this year they put the metal back in it. So I think we're probably reading too much into that and probably giving them a little bit of a hard time. But same ski as last year, but we get 2 sheets of metal in this ski now. They were able to keep it pretty light still, so this ski is 1,850 grams. I really like the way that they use kind of different wood types in this ski and laminate them in different ways. You get this kind of raised portion in the middle of the ski. That's how Kastle controls the amount of stability in the ski while also keeping it compliant. The FX line in general, from the get-go, from its inception way back with like the FX95 and stuff like that, they were designed as skis to take into the backcountry. Chris Davenport's signature used to be on the FX95, I believe, the black and blue one, if you remember that ski. He is known for, like technical lines in the backcountry, alpine touring, mountaineering, stuff like that. He wanted a ski that he can trust, and that kind of, that resulted in these skis being built. And I think that's still true. I feel like some people kind of forget about that with these FX skis, but they are intended to work really well off-piste. So wood core, like we said, kind of that cool combination of different woods, 2 sheets of metal. Directional shape, we don't get a ton of rocker in this skis, or at least not a lot of splay. So tip rocker starts about where my hand is. There's really not much tail rocker. It's almost like a blade tail in how it kind of abruptly rises back there. So quite a bit of splay, but not much in length. And then good camber underfoot too. And of course we get Kastle's hollow tech construction up there in the tip. So talk about a ski that you're going to take into the backcountry potentially. You want it to be trustworthy. You want it to be versatile for a wide range of snow conditions and terrain. That's pretty much the perfect description of this ski. Whether you're on firm groomers or whether you're skiing deeper powder in the trees, this ski will perform really well. We jump up quite a bit in price in this ski to $1,099. A lot of that is just because it's a Kastle. It comes along with premium materials, premium manufacturing, a lot of attention to detail, like this metal kind of protector in the tip. I just always love looking at that kind of stuff.
And then you can.
It's kind of a testament to the ski's quality. And if you want a versatile all-mountain ski, whether it's going to be a resort ski or whether you're going to put like a Shift or a Duke PT on it and use it in the backcountry as well, it's premium and it's extremely versatile. So a really, really solid feel, just feels incredibly smooth, pretty darn damp, but also relatively agile, pretty easy to flick around. This was one of the first 2020 skis we tested this past season.
2022.
2020. I say that a lot. One of the first 2022 skis we tested this past season, and I'd say it throughout all of our testing the rest of the season, it continued to be one of the most impressive.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with it's a Kastle.
Yeah, and I think kind of the introduction of that ZX line allowed them to maybe move
Yeah,
back
put
into
the metal back into this. Yep.
With that driftier ZX line being taking that place of the non-metal versions and the more soft snow oriented. But I found a lot more success and happiness on this than the previous HP version with the carbon and fiberglass.
Yep, a little bit bigger or a little better for a bigger skier like yourself, and even for me, like I felt the difference between them.
Yeah.
You know, the previous ski was perfectly supportive for my size, but this just feels smoother, which is something that I appreciate.
Yeah, the dampness throughout, and then the flex of the tip. I mean, we had, when we did this comparison video, or not comparison, review video, we had the FX96 HP along with us, and we did some pretty direct comparisons of the flex.
Yeah.
And that older HP was certainly softer in the shovel.
Yeah.
All right, really expensive now. Stockli Stormrider 95. If you
It's only a $50 increase from the
only a
Kastle.
$50 increase. If you're sitting on $1,149 and want something to buy, I would recommend this.
Sure.
Just have that cash lying around and you want to ski, just get this one. You know, a nice overall update from last year. We get their Titech Pro on top here. So light wood core with 2 sheets of metal, a little bit heavier, 1920 versus the previous version. But really that makes this thing just that much more stable and strong. You know, we kind of talked about how these things perform well at a variety of speeds and you don't have to push them too hard. This one you can push harder. So I think it's a nice, you know, upgrade, and just the quality of it puts it on just a different level.
Yep.
So yeah, just under, you know, 1,900 grams. We still get the flex though. I mean, it's a little bit stiffer than it used to be, but still it's accessible. So you know, those things combine to make this just one of the most well-rounded skis in the industry, perhaps, I would say. Not as rockered as we've seen. That's kind of a testament to Stockli's kind of company view on free ride, all mountain skis.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
none of their
widest
skis have a ton of rocker.
No, I mean the widest ski they make is 102 millimeters wide. So they obviously put more of their philosophical emphasis on edge grip, effective edge contact, and this Stormrider 95 has that for sure. So I mean, really minimal. I wouldn't even go so far as to call it rocker, more just a longer tip shape.
Yeah.
And then in the tail, we not only see just a minimum amount of that in terms of splay, but we also see like basically no taper here as well. So super business-like on the tail end. It's the slightly softer flex that allows you to activate the ski and get the energy out of it without being hooked in too much. So it's a really interesting combination. You know, this is the 184, 19.5 meter turn radius. It's kind of a similar overall feel to maybe the Stance, just with a
A little lighter.
a little higher end feel to it.
Yeah.
But you know, if you have that money and you want the premium product, I mean, we talk about this a lot. You know, skis are all basically made out of the same material. There's some mix of wood and metal and plastic going on, but they use better materials. Your favorite, the
Rubber dust.
Rubber dust.
Yeah, super cool.
So on top of that epoxy, they lay the rubber dust, which
Everything.
Yeah.
Every piece of the ski gets coated with rubber dust. I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, and you know, and it works. You know, you put your energy into this thing, and it's about as smooth as it gets.
Yeah.
You know, no speed limit, no speed minimum.
Yep.
That range of capabilities of this is really what make it.
But
stand out.
interestingly, also like relatively approachable.
Yep.
It's not just like tremendously stiff and impossible to ski.
No.
It's like it's extremely refined in
Right.
how in its high performance, it's really cool how they it's not just pigeonholed to an aggressive expert.
Right.
You could put an intermediate with reasonably good technique on those, and they'd be like, yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive stuff from Stockli.
Yep, and that's that's a premium product on the high end of the price wall.
Yep, and I feel like that's a good way to end the Mid-90 comparison. This was 22 skis, so that's more than we've ever done before, which was pretty fun. Hopefully we didn't go crazy long. We'll see when we put it all together. As usual, feel free to ask us any questions. You guys always have really good follow-up questions, so don't hesitate to leave those. We have been getting a lot of questions recently, so if we're slower to respond, our apologies, but we will get back to you eventually.
And people are excited. That's a good thing.
Yeah, ski season's right around the corner. So let us know if you have any questions, and we'll see you out there on the slopes pretty soon.
Bye.